Good afternoon, fourth grade. Today we're going to continue reading in our novel, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. But before we do that, we want to complete this fill-in-the-blank summary of chapters 1 and 2. So get your pencils ready and to fill in the blank. Minli and her family live in a village that is covered in mud. If you need to press pause to write down your answer and then play, you can do that. Ma is usually sad because the family is poor. To keep the family spirits up, Ba tells stories each night at dinner. Ma doesn't like the stories because she thinks they get Minli's hopes up. Minli also bought a goldfish from a man. Press pause to write down your answers and play when you're ready for the focus question. Today we're going to think about how do Ma and Ba disagree about storytelling, and what does each character believe about storytelling and why. Alright, our vocabulary words are anonymous, and that describes someone that you don't know the name to. So we would draw a line to this picture. It doesn't have a face, therefore the person is anonymous. The second word is magistrate, and that is a judge or someone who administers the law. And then the last one is fortune. Fortune has two meanings. It could mean luck, or it could also mean a lot of money. Alright, today we're going to be reading pages 18 through 24. It's a folk tale that is in the middle of chapter 3. And then in our parallel teaching, we will cover the beginning and end of chapter 3. Alright, and the strategy we're going to be using today is CSPS. So let's get ready to read at the top of the story of the Old Man of the Moon. And we are first looking for our character and setting. Make sure that as I'm reading aloud, you're following along with your pencil, ready to underline and label your CSPS. Alright, once there was a magistrate who was quite powerful and proud. He was so proud that he demanded constant respect from his people. So we would go ahead and underline the parts of that sentence that let us know who the magistrate is. Whenever he made a trip out of the city, no matter what time of day or night, people were to leave their homes, get on their knees, and make deep bows as he passed, or else face the brutal punishment of his soldiers. The magistrate was fierce in his anger as well as his pride, and it is said he even expected the monkeys to come down from the trees to bow to him. And we'll stop right there because we have a lot of information about our character, the magistrate. And we would say that the magistrate is very proud and he forces everyone to bow down to him. So we would write that in box 1. Get ready to write. The magistrate is very proud, and he forced everyone in the town to bow down to him. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the second part. And then it says, how do you know? And so we would choose one of these quotes that we've underlined. You could choose this quote that says, he was so proud that he demanded constant respect from his people. Or you could choose this bottom quote, the magistrate was fierce in his anger as well as his pride. Silently write down one of those quotes for the second part of box 1. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the setting. And we know in the middle of this paragraph it says that he made trips out of the city. And so the only information we have about the setting is that the magistrate lives in a city. Silently write that down in the first part of box 2. The magistrate lives in a city. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the second part. And we would write down the first part of this quote in the middle of paragraph 1 that says, whenever he made a trip out of the city. That's the only part you have to write down because it tells us where the story takes place. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you are ready to keep reading. And it makes sense that we wouldn't have a specific setting because for many of our folk tales, they don't take place in a specific location. So that gives us a clue about what kind of folk tale it is. We're at the top of page 19. The magistrate was harsh with his subordinates, ruthless to his enemies, and pitiless to his people. And that's just more evidence that he's like a really evil person. All feared his wrath, and when he roared his orders, the people trembled. Behind his back, they called him Magistrate Tiger. Magistrate Tiger's most coveted wish was to be of royal blood. His every decision was crafted for that purpose. Every manipulation was part of a strategy to achieve acceptance into the imperial family. And imperial means royal, so he wants to be a part of the royal family. So, as soon as his son was born, he began to make trips and inquiries to gain influence, in hopes that he could marry his son to a member of the imperial family. And we'll stop right there because we have information about our problem. Magistrate Tiger wants to be part of the royal family. That is part of the problem. And so let's go ahead and write that part in the first part of box 3. Magistrate Tiger wants to be part of the royal family. There's going to be more to the problem that we're going to add later, but for right now, press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. Last paragraph on page 19. One night, as the magistrate traveled through the mountains, again on a trip to gain favor for his son's future marriage, he saw an old man sitting alone in the moonlight. The old man ignored the passing horses and carriages, the silk brocade of and the government seal, and simply continued reading a large book in his lap, placidly fingering a bag of red string beside him. And the old man's indifference infuriated Magistrate Tiger, and he ordered the carriage to stop. However, even the halting noises did not make the old man look up. Turn the page. Finally, Magistrate Tiger exited his carriage and went to the old man, who was still engrossed in his book. "Do you not bow to your magistrate?" he roared. The old man continued to read. "What are you reading that is so important?" the magistrate demanded, and looked at the pages of the book. It was full of scribbles and scrawls that were not of any language the magistrate knew of. "Why, it's just nonsense written in there." "Nonsense?" the old man said, finally looking up. "You fool! This is a book of fortune. It holds all the knowledge in the world, the past, the present, and future." The magistrate looked again at the marks on the page. "I cannot read it," he said. "Of course not," said the man, "but I, the old man of the moon, guardian of the book of fortune, can read it. And with it, I can answer any question in the world." "You can answer any question in the world?" the magistrate scoffed. "Very well. Who will my son marry when he's of age?" The old man, top of page 21. The old man flipped the pages of the book. He said to himself. "Yes, here it is. Your son's future wife is now a 2-year-old daughter of a grocer in the next village." "The daughter of a grocer?" the magistrate spat. "Yes," said the old man of the moon continued. "Right now she is wrapped in a blue blanket and bordered with white rabbits, sitting on the lap of her blind grandmother in front of her house." "No," said the magistrate, "I will not allow it." And I would underline that because it's part of the problem. Magistrate Tiger does not like the fortune the old man of the moon gave him. "It's true," the old man said. "They are destined to be husband and wife. I myself tied the red cord that binds them." "What red cord?" Magistrate Tiger demanded. "Do you know nothing? I tied together everyone who meets these red threads. With these red threads," the old man sighed, holding up his bag full of red string. "When you were born, I tied your ankle to your wife's ankle with a red thread, and as you both grew older, the line became shorter until you eventually met. All the people you've met in your life have been brought to you by the red cords I've tied." Top of page 22. "I must have forgotten to tie the end of one of the lines, which is why you're meeting me now. I won't do that again." "I don't believe you," the magistrate said. "Believe or don't believe," the man said, standing up and putting the big book on his back. "We have reached the end of our thread, and I will not leave." The magistrate stared in dumbfounded silence as the old man of the moon walked away up the mountain. "Crazy old man," the magistrate said finally. "What a waste of my time." The magistrate returned to his carriage and continued on. But as they drove through the next village, he saw an old blind woman holding a baby girl in front of a house. The girl was wrapped in a blue blanket and bordered with white rabbits, just as the old man of the moon had said. Magistrate Tiger burned with anger. "I will not let my son marry a grocer's daughter," he vowed. So we're going to pause right there because this is more information about our problem. And we're going to add to this part in box 3. And we're going to say the magistrate was angry that the old man of the moon said his son would not marry into the royal family. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you are ready for the next part. And we will write down this quote at the bottom of page 22 that says, "Magistrate Tiger burned with anger. I will not let my son marry the grocer's daughter." And we will write that quote down in the second part of box 3. Silently write it down. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the solution. Let's keep reading. Bottom of page 22. "So after he arrived at his guest house, the magistrate secretly ordered one of his servants to return to the grocer's home and stab the girl with a knife. 'That will take care of her,' he thought to himself." Many years later, Magistrate Tiger had his dream fulfilled, and his son married one of the emperor's granddaughters. And so, if we're looking into box 4, it asks us, how does the character solve their problem? And we know that the magistrate had the girl murdered, and his son was able to marry into the royal family. Silently write this down. The magistrate had the little girl murdered, and his son was able to marry into the royal family. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the next one. And it says, "How do you know?" And you can write down a quote where he tells his guards to murder her, or you can write down the quote that says, "Many years later, Magistrate Tiger had his dream fulfilled." Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready for the theme. And we aren't going to do the theme today because that's something we haven't covered, so you can cross out theme. And when you're finished writing, you can turn the page and talk to us about what the characteristics of a folktale are and how you know.